two, whoo!
Welcome to Authenticity Lab, a podcast where we celebrate the journey of reconnecting with our authentic selves. I'm Dr. Kelsey Miles. I'm a musician, a songwriter, and also a chemistry professor. Each week, I share a new life story, and I break it down using none other than the scientific method. At the end of every episode, you're going to want to stick around because I challenge you with a life experiment that you can run yourself so you can live more boldly, lead a life of curiosity, and become the truest version of yourself. In today's episode, I'm inviting you to stop getting so excited about being chosen. If you've ever been excited about being chosen by someone else for a friendship or for a romantic date, even chosen for your job, chosen to be part of a band, chosen for anything, if this is you, you're going to want to listen to this entire episode. This podcast episode is inspired by a few things happening currently in my life. One of which is causing me to film this and record this at midnight. I don't know if you can hear it. I'll probably edit this out in post-production, but there is a dog barking right now. I had this lovely stray dog choose me tonight. I was going for a walk. I had this inspiration to go for a walk right after dinner, and I knew I didn't have much time because I needed to film this podcast episode. But I decided to go for a walk, and then I met this German Shepherd mix of a dog that looks like it had been outside for a long time. Really hungry, skinny. Anyway, I went to see if any of the people at the basketball court, if that was their dog. No one knew the dog. So then I walked back home, and the dog followed me, and I couldn't help but feel chosen. I talked to the dog a little bit. I was like, "Where's your mom?" And then he looked at me, and then he was like, "I think you might be it." And so I walked home, and he went right up the stairs of my porch, and he's outside barking. And every time I look, he's still on my back porch just hanging out. So that inspired this episode. And two other things inspired this episode. A very good friend of mine just went through a situation where she recognized she was wanting a response from someone in her life, and it wasn't the response that she really wanted. It was the feeling of being chosen that she wanted. And the reason she did was because she got really excited when that person chose her in the first place. And then when they stopped choosing her, she just wanted to feel that way again. We're going to dive into this big time this episode. In my own life, I realized that choosing myself was something that I needed to solidify even more. And the story I'm going to share with you has happened pretty recently. So I had been seeing someone for about 11 months. And when they met me, it was, May of last year. So almost a year ago, they met me, and I was really feeling good. I had finished my first year at Avila University teaching, and I just bought my new house in Kansas City, getting my feet on the ground, feeling really good about myself. And then they asked me out on a date, and then we started dating. So this was 11 months. And it really feels good to be chosen. It really feels good for someone to find you out in the real world and say, "Hey, you, I really like you." That relationship, like I said, it lasted about 11 months, and there were so many great things about it. And I learned a lot about really what was going on in this relationship. Without going into detail, the ending of the relationship taught me something about why I'm doing this podcast, why it's so important to choose yourself, why it's so important to connect with who you really are. After 11 months, after being told that I was being chosen, after being told I was the one, after being told I was the one they wanted to grow old with, the one that they wanted to share everything with, the one that they wanted to build something with. He broke up with me over the phone. No in-person conversation, no apology about the way the breakup happened, no more communication. Just cut and dry, and that was it because they couldn't meet. He said he could not meet my needs fast enough. And so after 11 months together, after all of the conversations of talking about building something and being told that I was someone they wanted to grow old with, and um, all of those conversations of what that life would look like. It's so fun to be excited about that, right? And it's very human to get excited about that. And what happened at the end was he broke up with me over a phone call. No in person conversation, no attempt to communicate why and have any clear conversational closure. It was wild to me. I have never been treated like that at the end of a relationship. It was abrupt and it really hurt. And it said so much about him and the way that he ended it. You see, being chosen by someone is really a beautiful thing. However, if their choice is rooted in their own comfort, their own fantasy, or their own desires of what they want you to be for them, their own fragility, their own insecurities, you see, being chosen is not stable. This wasn't the first time he broke up with me over the phone. This was something that was a pattern. And I'm not going to get into the details of that. What I do want to share is that because this wasn't the first time that it happened, in the previous times I walked us through how to maneuver something that was this abrupt because, the saying like hurt people, it's very true. And this time I said, okay. And then that was it. I don't need someone to choose me. And as excited as I was that I was chosen, I learned through this experiment, really, I realized that the most stable feeling I can give myself is to choose myself fully. And so that way, if someone else choosing me, sure, it might add to my life, it might be beautiful. And if they change their mind, let them. Let them change their mind. That's okay. They're allowed to. I think there's ways that you can change your mind and communicate it a little better. But honestly, the way in which this relationship ended really struck a nerve with me. It really spurred some uh, of my last bits of fear of someone not choosing me up. Because when someone can switch so abruptly, it makes you realize how incredibly unstable someone else choosing you is. And it made me realize how stable I could be by choosing myself. So this is an invitation. Stop getting so excited that someone chose you. And this is how we do this. In order to not be so excited that someone chose you, how do we not just fall head over heels for when someone chooses us? And then we get our heart broken when they just flippantly decide not to choose us. Well, and in some cases, some people, it's fine if someone chooses not to choose you anymore. Uh, this is what happens in life. So how do we become unshakable through this? And the way that I've approached this is I've thought about it, and when I said okay to him on the phone, and then I grieved and everything, and I'm doing so much better now. All it was me just reminding myself how much I do choose myself and how much I love myself. And how, although it was wonderful to be chosen by someone else and to get that attention, and it was exciting to me to build something together with someone. And it was okay that he wasn't at that place. And I can still be grateful for the fun times that we had and the ways in which I thought we were building something. Because through all of it, I can see that I still chose myself and I can do it even better. If I really, really choose myself, the next person that chooses me, well, sure, it will be nice, but it won't be filling a void. How often do we get so excited because someone actually is filling a void within us? Something we think we can't have without someone else giving it to us. I've definitely been there in previous relationships, and it made the breakups really, really hard. I challenge you, if you're someone who gets very excited when someone chooses you, I want you to think about what it looks like to choose yourself. And so that way, if someone chooses you and then they walk away, they stop choosing you, you aren't left with this huge void. You enter it more whole. You enter it knowing that you're lovable and that you have your back. You've got you. In a way, choosing yourself actually allows you to lean more fully into the relationship. Sure, I was very excited that he chose me. And at the same time, I've been able to heal through the grief of losing that relationship because I do choose myself and I do love myself. And it made it easy for me to just say, okay, when he broke up with me over the phone, instead of trying to, you know, do something that I've done a lot in past relationships, which is, try to make it all better, try to make sure that they're still choosing me, you know? Why do we fight so hard for someone else to give us something that we can give ourselves? Why do we fight so hard to get someone else to give us something we can give ourselves? I can choose myself. You can choose yourself. When you decide that someone else has to do that for you, it's actually putting a lot of pressure on them too. The needs that you have, can you meet them yourself? I'm not saying it's beautiful to have a relationship. It's beautiful to be chosen by friends. But think of how amazing it feels when a friend who chooses themselves also chooses you, who chooses yourself. That is beautiful. You're not relying solely on someone else to say, I think you're great. It's nice to hear it, but it's not a need that you have. It's a beautiful thing to get, but not something you need. This is how you become more unshakable. This is something that I am choosing moving forward. And I realize even in this relationship, there are ways that I could choose myself more, and do way better at it. It'll allow me to show up more as my authentic self if I do that. So, my friend, I invite you to choose yourself. And again, we're not talking about, I should mention real quick that this dog that chose me and these two cats that have chosen me, I have not gone to a shelter to get any of my animals. I don't know if I'm going to keep the dog, but he is very sweet. But these pets have chosen me. Pets, when they choose, they're choosing from a place of authenticity. This is why you don't see, a dog or a cat who's chosen their owner be so flippant with their decision. Sure, they might introduce another human, but usually they're like, that's my human, and that's just my human. And there's something really beautiful about that. And although we want that, right? We all want to be chosen in that way. And there are relationships in which you do get to be chosen in that way. My encouragement for all of us through this episode is not that it's bad to be chosen. It's beautiful that that dog chose me. I felt so special. And with pets, their choice is so consistent with who they are. When you feel chosen by a pet, you know it. You know what I'm talking about. And maybe that's the real takeaway from this, and that being chosen by anyone, any animal, it's really important that they're choosing from their truest identity, their truest self. And when we think about humans, we aren't as steadfast as pets. We change and we grow and we have enormous insecurities and things that we have to heal and work through. And so as much as we mean to make, meaningful choices, we often can change our minds, which makes it even more important for you to choose yourself. Give yourself that something stable. That gift of someone choosing you. Sure, it feels good, but it isn't stable because not everyone that chooses you is doing it from a place of clarity. Sometimes they're choosing you because it's comfortable, or it's from a place of fantasy, or they're choosing you because they have a fear of being alone. And none of those things provide any stability. Who knows? They might break up with you over a phone call. That's what happened to me. 1 minute, literally the night before, I was the one. And then I was no longer convenient. It's wild. So we're going to choose ourselves. That's what we're going to do. And I'll throw one more thing in there. I've realized that it's not that I've ever wanted to be chosen. When I get to the core of what a partnership would look like, a true partnership, it goes to my song, I See You. My song, I See You, is about seeing someone for exactly who they are. No matter what comes with it, no matter the imperfections, I'll put those in air quotes, but really seeing someone for who they are, who they truly are. And that's really what I would love. I would love to be seen. I would love to be seen, not chosen for what I can do for someone else, but seen for the true version of myself. And guess what, my friend? We can also do that for ourselves. And the reason this is so important, this is the most important thing. The reason this is so important is because when you choose yourself, you're going to know what it feels like. And so when the next person that comes into your path, you're going to know if they're meeting you on that same energy level. You're going to know if it feels right. You're going to know within your heart because you will have chosen yourself and you know exactly what it feels like to choose yourself and to see yourself fully. It's time for your life experiment, and I think you know what it is. This week, I want you to think about what it feels like to choose yourself, and I want you to find one small, tiny action you can do to choose yourself. Does that mean that maybe you do some meal prep this week? Does that mean you take yourself on a walk, or maybe you take yourself on a date? Do you buy the book that you'd really like to sit down and read? Do you say no to something because you want to do something else? Do you show up for yourself? What does it mean to choose yourself? This week, you're going to take an action that feels like choosing yourself. And when you take that action, I want you to think about how it feels. And this is the thing I want you to repeat again and again and again and again. If you do this more often, you're going to feel way better. Your cup is going to be more full. I know sometimes we think that choosing ourselves means someone else doesn't get chosen. And the opposite is true. When you choose yourself and you fill your cup, you have more to give to all of the people you love around you. It just might have some short-term discomfort, but I promise you, long-term comfort, living in that authentic place that's fully you. So, my friend, choose yourself this week. I'd love to hear from you. Email me at kelsey@kelseymiles.com and let me know what you did to choose yourself this week. Also, if anything in this podcast sparked some interest and you know you have a friend or a family member that's going through something where they, like me, went through a breakup, or anything around this topic of feeling chosen and then all of a sudden not being chosen, send this to them. Please send this to them. This might be something that they might need to hear as well. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Authenticity Lab, where I invited you to stop getting so excited when someone chooses you. Because, my friend, we choose ourselves first and foremost, and it's wonderful when someone chooses us, but it isn't a necessity. I'll be back next week with a new life story and a new life experiment to challenge you to live more boldly, lead a life of curiosity, so you can keep being your most amazing, authentic self.
Yeah, that house will always go